Hearing Board for Tuesday, October 8th, 2024. Can we please all stand and say the Pledge of Allegiance? Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible.
There's a mistake.
Before we get started, I'd like to do some introductions, if I may. To my left, I have Bob McTay. To his left, I have Nastasha Raisley. To her left, I have Matt Takita. To his left, I have Diane Beret. They both represent the Township. To my right, I have Keith Blvd, who is our solicitor. I have Chris Kilmer. On Zoom, I have Bill Kernan, and my court reporter today is Ed McKenna. Good evening. Petition number 1. Agile Cold Bucks LLC, Cabot Blvd, Langhorne, Pennsylvania, 19047. TMP number 13-003-009-011 and number 13-003-009-012. Zoned OIP, requesting the following dimensional variances to construct a 230,000 square foot cold storage facility with associated loading and parking areas, which is to be served by a new rail spur connection. Section 209-32.1, parentheses E, parentheses 3, parentheses A, to allow a building height of 70 feet where a maximum height of 50 feet is otherwise permitted. Section 209-32.1, parentheses E, parentheses 3, parentheses D, to allow a building coverage of 37.2% where a maximum of 25% is otherwise permitted. Section 209-32.1, parentheses E, parentheses 3, parentheses H, to allow an impervious surface coverage of 65.8% where a maximum of 60% is otherwise permitted. Section 209-34, parentheses E, to allow a guardhouse accessory building within the side yard setback. Section 209-42E, to allow a drive width of 45 feet instead of a 30 feet, which is allowed. Good evening.
Good evening, Board. Bryce McGuigan from Bagley Carlin, here tonight on behalf of the applicant, Agile Cold Bucks LLC. Thank you very much for having us this evening. Obviously, more than happy to, well, first let me introduce the team before I believe we're going to mark some exhibits, but just so everyone knows who's here. So we've got John Ripple. He's the Chief Development Officer of Agile Cold Storage. We also have with me tonight Ed Gleason, who's the project engineer who designed the plan set that you have before you this evening. And again, we're more than happy and can't wait to present our project, but I know there's some housekeeping first.
Thank you. Madam Chair, if we can mark the application for zoning ordinance appeal along with a statement as ZHB 1. 2 will be proof of posting of the property. 3 will be notification to applicant's attorney from Falls Township. That letter was dated September 30th, 2024. 4 will be proof of publication of the Bucks County Courier Times, showing this matter was published September 25th and then again October 1st, 2024. 5 will be the project plan submitted by the applicant. I've been handed by Mr. McGuigan a certification of service along with the form notice sent to the adjoining or abutting property owners. I'll mark that as A1, and I'm satisfied the appropriate notice have been satisfied. This matter can proceed.
Thank you. Bill, do you need them to spell their names or anything for you, or are you good? Okay.
Okay, again, thank you for having us tonight. So the property at issue are 2 unaddressed lots along Cabot Blvd. Specifically, and by way of background, like I mentioned, there are these 2 parcels. They are presently vacant. My client, Agile Cold Bucks LLC, is the equitable owner of these parcels. They total a shade under 14.5 acres, and they're part of the OIP zoning district. The property is somewhat uniquely positioned. If you look at the proposed rendering to my side, to my left here, board's right, our site plan, you have a rail line just to the south of the property, and to the north, you have Route 1. So like I said, this is part of this industrial corridor that is separated by these 2 main thoroughfares. We're here tonight because my client is proposing to construct a designated cold storage facility on the property. This will be 230,000 square feet. It is a permitted use within the OIP zoning district. However, we do require a number of variances, dimensional variances, related to either coverages, building height, the driveway, as well as a proposed guardhouse on the property. The proposed structure is completely setback compliant. However, we do have these 5 other zoning issues at play. Specifically, and I believe the most prominent of these would be the height variance request. You're allowed 50 feet in the OIP. We're proposing 70 feet. Now, this might seem to be a little higher than what we're used to even in the industrial district. However, for a designated cold storage facility, industry standard is typically 80 feet or higher because you need a little bit of extra space in order to accommodate certain automated storage and retrieval mechanisms in the property. So like I said, we're proposing 70 feet, which is a shade over what's allowed, but otherwise shouldn't be much of an issue in this particular property because, again, we have Route 1 to the north and we have a rail line to the south. And that rail line is significant for us because we're also proposing a spur that will connect our property right to the rear of here to the existing rail line behind our property. The remainder of the variances are a little bit more akin to what you see in this industrial corridor already. Specifically, we're going to be at a shade over 37% building coverage, where I believe we're going to be a shade over 37% building coverage, where otherwise the OIP requires 25%. Again, keeping with the local area, literally the property just to the right here, which you can't really obviously see on our plan, there's a 400,000 square foot warehouse there. If you go over a couple of properties on the left, you have 2 separate warehousing structures that are over 200,000 square feet and 300,000 square feet. So what we're proposing is basically right in the middle of that to the lower end. So building coverage is something that you see very often in this particular part of town. We're also a shade over on impervious surface, 65.8% instead of 60%. This is because, look, obviously we're proposing the subject building, but the additional parking area in the front, as well as the loading area to the rear, and the need for designated security for the loading area and the warehouse in general. That's why we have this separate entrance with this guardhouse, which is also the subject of our application. So because we need to provide some of these additional infrastructure portions of the project, we're a shade over on impervious surface. However, that's going to be addressed through stormwater management, which Ed will be happy to testify to at length if the board would like. But generally speaking, we're dealing with 5 separate basins. We have 3 surface basins, one to the top left, one here to the side of the parking area, and one to the bottom right. We also have 2 subsurface basins, one underneath this specific loading the parking area right over here, and one to the rear of the property below that rail line spur. So using those basins, we're going to provide stormwater management, and obviously we know that we're going to have to work with the township through the land development process to finalize these plans and work with the township engineer for that purpose. Like I mentioned a moment ago, our 4th variance relates to the guardhouse. So this is going to be a little guardhouse that's going to help provide security for vehicles coming and going into the warehouse, to the main portion of the warehouse. However, there is a requirement in Falls Township that if you have an accessory structure, that it cannot sit within a setback. So even though we have this very small 216 square foot, essentially security desk and security house here, because that's 50 feet within the property line, we need relief for that. The last variance that we are requesting is related to the driveway. Typically, driveways are capped at 30 feet in width. Ours, right here, is going to be 45 feet in width. And again, that is to help with maneuverability. That's also to help facilitate potential two-way traffic of larger vehicles. So it's purely maneuverability related, specifically related to this use. So that caps the relief that we're asking for tonight. As my client and as our engineer, Mr. Gleason, will testify, this is the minimum relief that the applicant needs to reasonably use the property for an otherwise permitted use, and something that will be a benefit to Falls Township, and specifically within this particular industrial corridor, it should fit like a glove. But with that, I would just like to bring up John to attest to my statements, and Ed to follow, and then if the board has any questions, we will happily address that. Okay? John, why don't you come on up?
Would you state and spell your full name, please?
John Ripple, John, John, Ripple, Ripple.
John, did you have a chance to...
Hold on one second. Let me swear him in. Do you solemnly swear the testimony you're about to give shall be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
Yes, I do.
Thank you.
Sorry about that. Getting ahead of myself. John, do me a favor. Did you have a chance to listen to all my statements to the board?
Yes, I did.
Did you understand my statements?
Yes, I did.
Anything you'd like to change or add?
Nope.
Were they true
Correct.
and correct to the best of your knowledge?
Yes, they were.
All right. Will you be willing to adopt those statements as your testimony this evening?
Yes.
All right. And just to confirm, if your relief is approved today, and if you move forward with the land development process and you're approved through that, about how many jobs do you think you're going to be bringing to Falls Township?
Between 90 and 120, this building is probably right at 100 people, of which 80 people are sort of warehouse employees, and then 20 people are management, supervision, HR, those types of roles.
And you've done this in other townships, other municipalities in the Philadelphia area?
Correct. We're just opening our building in Claymont, Delaware, which is just south of Philadelphia. We expect to open that building on October the 17th and full operations in early November this year.
And obviously, you're looking to build this tried and true cold storage facility here to Falls Township, correct?
Correct. And in fact, it would be a very similar building, sort of identical use, identical type design, does not have rail, but otherwise very similar building, similar use.
All right, perfect. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
All right. Ed Klein, come on up.
Just state and spell your full name, sir.
Edward Gleason, Edward, Gleason.
Do you solemnly swear the testimony you're about to give shall be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do.
Thank you.
Ed, you're a licensed PE in the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania?
That's correct.
All right. I'll be more than happy to go through Mr. Gleason's credentials and work history.
We don't need to do that. I will accept him as he is.
Perfect. Thank you very much. All right, Ed, did you have a chance to hear all my statements to the board?
I did.
True and correct to the best of your knowledge?
Yes.
Anything you'd like to change or add?
No.
Would you be willing to adopt my statements as your testimony here before the board tonight?
I will.
And obviously, if the board has any questions regarding the project itself, any of the engineering to it, you'll be more than happy to answer those, correct?
Absolutely.
All right. With that concludes the applicant's presentation, and both Mr. Gleason and Mr. Ripple are available if the board has any questions regarding the business itself or regarding any of the technical aspects of the project.
Thank you. I'm going to open it up to board comment. Bob?
No questions.
Nastasha?
No questions.
Chris?
No questions.
Bill?
No questions.
And actually, I have no questions. Is there anything from the township? Is there anybody from the public who would like to say anything? I don't see anything, so I am going to bring this to a motion. Do I have a motion?
I'll make that motion. I move that the application of Agile Cold Bucks LLC requesting dimensional variances from the following sections of the Falls Township zoning ordinance be granted to construct a 230 square foot cold storage facility with associated loading and parking areas, which is to be served by a new rail spur connection. With section 209-32-1E3A, section 209-32-1E3D, section 209-32-1E3H, section 209-34E, section 209-42E, at the property located at Cabot Blvd, Langhorne, PA 19047, as depicted on the plans in accordance with testimony presented to the zoning hearing board.
Thank you. Do I have a second?
A second. I'll second.
I have a second. Bob, can you please pull the board?
Nastasha.
Yes.
Chris.
Yes.
Bill.
Yes.
Laney.
Yes. The motion has been granted. Will we see something from the township? Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Do I have a motion to adjourn the meeting?
Yes.
All in favor? Aye. Thank you. Good night.